Hey everyone, I'm Mark Cunningham and welcome to this week's special version of Decaf. We have Stephanie Witt, the ratings booster from what she says. So we're happy to have you with us. Yeah, I think it's the last couple shows that Stephanie's been on has gotten a higher viewership than our normal one. So we're glad to have her there. And I think we're both glad Taylor's not here. So welcome.
Yeah, I'm here just to bring up the viewership and followers for you.
That's right. Yeah, it's like when our ratings are down, we can just bring you back on and you can push us up. So let's start by talking about something that I know that you get super passionate about, maybe more passionate than anybody else I know. But it's the COVID-19 restrictions put on by the governments, local, national, other ones, and just the inconsistency of them. I know in Nashville, for example, that if you're a bar, you cannot open. If you do more than 50% of your business for alcohol, you cannot open. But if you're a restaurant, you can. And bars are trying to say, like, why is this happening? Why are we more dangerous than a restaurant? There's still as many people. And then in New York, they said, oh, you have to serve food. And then some people started serving food, and Cuomo said buffalo wings aren't food. So I want to hear your opinion about kind of what you think of these regulations and just the complete inconsistencies in them without any kind of medical backing.
If there is anything in 2020 that has really, like, pet peeve driven me off the edge, it is the inconsistency and hypocrisy of what people are requiring others to do. I think, for example, in Nashville, the mayor just did a 10 p.m. curfew for restaurants and bars. Well, actually, I don't think bars can even be open right now, technically. Yeah. But and it's like the virus doesn't know whether or not it's 10 p.m. And so it's either the behavior that's going on in those places that has to change, but it's not the time of day that those places are open that's going to make an impact on how many cases we have. I mean, that's just a ridiculous requirement.
But then you have another question is, does the behavior even need to change? I saw that Nate Rao from the Tennessee Lookout wrote that only 80 cases in total have been linked to bars and bar openings. So, like, is that even addressing the problem?
Well, I think that whole Lower Broadway thing that people are, it's probably more visual and interesting to tweet a picture of somebody not wearing a mask on Lower Broadway. But let's be real, a lot of those people are tourists, and they're not being counted in our cases because they're coming in. They're spending time in downtown Nashville or around at the tourist destination spot. They're going back home. They're not going here and going to Nissan Stadium and getting tested for COVID. They may when they get home to their state, but that doesn't count in our numbers. And it definitely doesn't count in our community spread. So when we have a lot of community spread, it's not really based on who's going to a tourist destination. It's how are they getting it within the community right now? And that's what you need to address. So no, I don't think it makes a difference at all.
And one of the council members, Emily Benedict, actually proposed that bars in her district can be allowed to be open, but the ones in tourist areas should not be. So they're trying to even differentiate even more just because they don't want to be hurt by it electorally, but they feel like, oh, that's not my district, so we should shut down those bars. It's just amazing how they're picking and choosing things that have literally nothing to do with any kind of science. They're saying trust the science, but how is this even relevant to science?
Apparently the virus is very ethical, right? Like, it doesn't show up at protests, it only shows up at bars. It's interesting to me that we have these double standards for different types of activities when in reality they are the same exact thing. It's people gathering together in closed, tight, confined spaces where the spread is more likely to occur.
And it must be like the laziest virus of all time. Doesn't start working until 10 p.m. apparently.
Yeah, it doesn't happen until 10 p.m. And it only, it's bizarre to me that we've kind of gotten into this hodgepodge of regulations. And it's really just, I think, based on there's an outcry about this thing that happened. So we do this 10 p.m. thing. And then the next week there's an outcry about transportainment or whatever they're called.
Transportainment, I think.
Yeah, transportainment, where they have the vehicles going down Broadway. And so then there's a ban on those. And then it's just kind of like this, we're kind of just shooting in the air at random things and trying to figure out what actually works. And none of it's actually based in any science at all.
And they're not even measuring it correctly, like you said. So it's hard to, how are we ever going to know if it's, so that's a big political issue. Let's move on to another one, which I think is interesting, is this whole idea, and it's both sides politically are boycotting things. I'm sure you saw that the founder, I think Goya Beans, supported Trump, and the left said we're going to we're done buying Goya beans. I saw something shockingly on the Tennessee Holler that said Amazon, Jeff Bezos made $13 billion in the pandemic. We should boycott Amazon. Even the whole reason he made that much money is because you shut down his competitors. But then on the right, you see people saying, oh, well, the NBA players are kneeling at the protest, so I'm going to boycott that. I have my own opinion, but I'm interested. Like, do you think, A, people are actually boycotting these, or do you think they're just saying it? And B, do you think boycotts are or can be effective?
No, I think it's a Twitter vacuum. I don't think it has any real impact on businesses, but I'm so tired of the cancel culture. Like, I'm so tired of it. Like, people make mistakes, they say things that they don't mean, or something happens and they apologize for it. Or I guess my biggest thing is I don't really care what the political stance is of my canned beans producer. Like, I'm going to eat canned beans, and it doesn't really bother me what their founder thinks about a particular political election.
Beans are super gross, but your point is right.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
Amazon, we all use Amazon. And unless you're actually going to stop using Amazon, boycotting them or saying you're going to boycott them is not going to do anything. And I think the majority of people are going to go with convenience over actual change. Maybe what are the new generation, the Gen Zers?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe the Zers will stop using Amazon, but I can't see really anybody else just stopping using it just simply out of a boycott because somebody made a profit, which is also not illegal in America.
Yeah. Well, not yet. If Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, not yet. It's,
But isn't that the thing though? Amazon, it's like that's capitalism, right? Because like, even if you don't agree with him for whatever reason, you have these things like, it's still the easiest convenient way to get stuff. So people are going to talk about it, but they're not going to actually stop using it.
Right. They're not going to. I bet some of the people that have tweeted about it have like Amazon packages sitting on their front porch right now.
For sure. Yeah. You don't see the people who love socialism stop using their cell phones that are made by private companies. I mean, so it seems like it's an idle threat. I agree with you 100%. And like, that's the NBA thing too. I see a lot of people on the right. I'm like, well, look, I don't really care what their beliefs are. I think it's whatever they want to do is fine, whether I disagree or don't disagree. I mean, that's not, I'm looking at that for entertainment and for a team I cheer for. And that's the same thing. Like, you're eating beans because you want something that tastes good. You don't really care where he stands on President Trump. And I think that
again, I listened to Taylor Swift's new Folklore album. I don't agree with her politically necessarily on everything that she talks about. And I really don't care what her opinion is on those types of things because I like her as an artist. And it's the same type of thing with these products is, I like the product, I'm going to use it. If their founder has a different view than me, I don't know that I'm going to stop using it just because of that.
Yeah, we'd never watch any movies for like Chuck Norris movies if we cut at every liberal in Hollywood. I mean, that would be great. I mean, Chuck Norris is an incredible man, but so yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I think that's fair. And of course, as a capitalist society, you have every right to boycott. That's part of what you do, but I don't think it works. And usually, if you boycott somebody for a dumb reason, people on the other side support them. Like I feel like the Chick-fil-A thing was kind of an example of that. So let's move on to something a little bit more fun. I'm not sure if you know, but the NBA is in a bubble. So basically, that means that they can't leave the Disney World campus. They basically have their own little campus, and they're not allowed to go outside of that because they don't want to spread COVID-19. So far, it's been very successful. There's not been any cases in the NBA in 2 weeks, which is great.
Except, didn't that guy go to the strip club?
Yeah. Well, Lou Williams said that he went to Magic City to get wings. He said that's the only reason he went to the strip club was they had great wings. But yes, but they basically, he had to leave and they had to quarantine him for I think 5 or 6 days before they let him back in and keep testing him. So he got those delicious wings, and I'm sure that's the only reason he was there. But it's successful otherwise. But it's interesting because they're stuck in Disney World, which is kind of every kid's dream. Like, you had to be stuck somewhere for a couple months. They're kind of in this bubble in Disney World. I think we've all seen the movies where like you're stuck in the mall or whatever. So my question is, as an adult of whatever age you are, 30s, where would you, or 20s, whatever, where would you?
We'll go with 30s.
Yeah, 30, yeah, exactly. But where would you, if you had to be stuck somewhere for like 3 or 4 days, what would you pick? You could pick a certain restaurant, a store, wherever. Where would you pick?
That's tough. I don't know. I mean, can I be?
As a kid, it was like the ice cream store, right? Like we all, man, we need to have ice cream all the time.
Can I be like stuck at the beach? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
like,
sure.
Why don't you just desert me on an island? I'll be in my own bubble on some kind of island. Sounds perfect.
That'll be great for our next, a great segue for our Survivor talk next. But yeah, I feel like I would rather, like, you want something where you can do a lot. So I'm thinking like a bar with a lot of games, but they have
like
too.
what's the place that's in Opry Mills that has the
Dave and Buster's?
Dave and Buster's.
Yes,
that would be an excellent spot.
Alcohol, good food, TVs to watch games, and a bunch of games to play. Like I feel like that's the answer. I think we just won that.
Social has a bowling alley. Like that would also be good too downtown.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I feel like you just want something that has everything. I'd love to be stuck there for 3 or 4 days. I would also like one of the cooks to stay because I don't want to make my own food. So hopefully one of them gets stuck in there with me. Doesn't talk to me, but just cooks for me.
You need a bartender and a chef.
Yep, that's right. And they can be the same person. I'm not trying to be, but yes, that would be the greatest thing ever, I think.
An unlimited skee ball. That's my only request.
Yeah, obviously. I think, my arms would be tired afterwards. So the last one we have is, you talked about being stuck on a beach. So I recently went back and watched season 1 of Survivor, which I used to watch.
This makes me so happy. You have no idea.
Yeah, so I haven't watched it in 20 years. I realized it came out in 2000, which, like, God, I'm so old. And I used to watch with my parents every Friday night, and I didn't really watch much after season 1, but I rewatched it, and it was still exciting. And Richard Hatch still won, and I love Rudy. I was really cheering for him that season. But it made me think, what is a movie or TV show, or more than one, from your childhood that you've recently rewatched, and how did it stand up to how you viewed it as a child? I feel like a lot of times these things get worse over time. I do think I like Survivor, but not as much as I did when I was, 10 years old.
Don't say that.
Tell me about a movie or TV show you watched recently.
So before I answer your question, I have watched, fun fact about me, I've watched every season of Survivor since it came out.
There's 40.
Yes, I've watched all
40 seasons
with my dad. Who is also a big Survivor fan, and who I've like been trying my hardest to get him to apply to be on Survivor. And if he makes it to the family episode where you get to have a family member come out, I would come out, obviously, and be like, hey, because we've watched it for 40 seasons.
Does it get, like, later on, because the first season's miserable. It's like they don't have food. I feel like I think they got lucky, but, like, there's poisonous snakes. I'm not even sure that they had, like, paramedics on site in season 1. Has it gotten, like, safer and, like, better places?
It's safer, but they really don't give them food. I mean, they give them rice now, which is maybe a little bit different than the first season, but they really are hungry, because there's a whole, if you're a really big Survivor fan, there's this whole after show called Ponderosa that they have now, where they film them when they get kicked off. And so they weigh them and, like, show you how much weight they've lost, and, like, they have their first big meal. And then if there's other people that have been kicked off before them, they kind of, like, talk about what happened in the game, because they now become the jury. So anyway, there's this whole, like,
we need to have a whole Survivor segment next week. So I want to talk about how the prizes are so unfair. Like, one person gets a whole, like, steak dinner, all you can drink, and the other guy gets, like, a slice of pizza for winning the next challenge. Like, how is that fair? But we need to talk about it later, because I love it, and I want to keep watching.
But you'll have to keep me on this journey and tell me which season is your favorite. But movies, we have been on a kick recently going back and watching, like, old movies. And part of it is because, we just had a child 5 months ago, and obviously he can't watch it and understand what it is that is going on in the movie, but we've still been having fun going on Disney Plus because we just got it. So we rewatched, like, Toy Story 2, Lion King, Cool Runnings. We're gonna start Mighty Ducks soon, which is also
that does. So which one of those held up the best, and which one held up the worst? Like, which one you're like, oh, I still like that today, and which one you're like, oh man, this is not as good as I thought?
Toy Story 1 definitely held up. Like, it's very funny, and I think funnier than I remembered it being, because I was probably younger when I watched it, and I didn't get all of the double entendre jokes that they have in there for adults. And so that was really funny. Cool Runnings was probably, it's a lot weirder than I remember it being in the, like, whole start of the story and everything. Like, I completely forgot all of the backstory. I just remember them bobsledding. So that was interesting going back and watching. And then Lion King is dark. It is that scene where he dies, that is dark.
Yeah, for kids. I know it's sad.
For kids, I was like, I don't remember this being so, like, I don't know, just dark.
Yeah, you remember, like, the good ending. You're like, oh, I forgot about the rest. But yeah, there is some bad parts there. But I'm glad. I mean, I miss John Candy. I feel like John Candy is the most underrated actor for Cool Runnings. Like, and I'm glad that,
cool.
Like, everything he's in, he's so funny. And it's a shame he died so young. But I'm glad that we're keeping that you're watching his movies and keeping his memory alive.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna do Mighty Ducks, which I'm really excited about.
Well, report back, because I watched those again all recently, and I like the third one the best. Everyone else prefers the first or second. The third one at Eden Hall is my favorite, so you have to let me know.
Is the third one where they go to the Olympics?
No, that's the second one. It's the Junior Goodwill Games. And the third one, they do Eden Hall, like the high school, and they play against the varsity team, which somehow a team that just won a national championship is the JV team of a high school, which makes no sense. We'll go into that later. But no, well, thank you for joining us. I had a great time. We had some good discussions this week, Stephanie, and
Yes,
we'll be back on sooner rather than later to get these ratings up. But we appreciate
get these ratings.
Yes. So, okay. And